Welcome to Well Played Podcast, a show on all things playful and joyous in education. I'm your host, Michael Matera, sixth grade teacher, author, and speaker. Well Played is part of On Podcast Media Network, a great network of podcasts for you to check out. Today's episode, we have with us Dene Gainey, and this is Season 4, Episode 26, Finding Positivity Through Your Purpose in Precarious Moments. And couldn't be more excited to have Dene Gainey with us, fellow author, Hive Summit keynote speaker. So super excited to have a good friend here on the show. But Dene, for those tuning in who don't know you, if you could give us a wee little bit of a bio.
Sure. Of course, as Michael said, my name is Dene Gainey. I am a teacher of 14 years. Mostly elementary school, but now in middle school teaching grade 7 ELA and drama, so that's exciting. Speaking of drama, I've also written some plays here recently, as well as an author, as Michael said, of Journey to the Y in You. Definitely excited to be able to be here again and get this conversation going.
I always love chatting with you, Dene. So yeah, today we got this, I didn't know that you made that switch. You're 7th ELA and drama. I mean, that was like news to me.
Oh, well, it's news to me too. It was an opportunity that presented itself, and I said, oh, why not? And so it definitely has been an interesting 4.5 weeks, but definitely a good 4.5 weeks too, for a lot of reasons.
That's awesome. So, all right, for the listeners out there, Dene and I were chatting before we got onto the show, just kind of mapping out some things. And I guess one of the things we want to talk about is we recognize, both of us, that this time is a challenging time, a difficult time. And by no means do we want to gloss that over and just say see the rainbow, see the rainbow, see the rainbow. We know that it's hard. And definitely we could do that hard podcast too, but we feel like there's a lot of that out there, and probably in your own buildings. And I will fully admit, in my building, I have taken opportunities to vent some of my frustration with my colleagues, with your team, with the people that are in your trenches. But as always, what I like to put out into the world, though, we also need some of the joy. So Dene and I thought, why not pull Dene in for this topic? And he was nice enough to say yes. And like I said, we both chatted before. We understand there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of difficulty out there. But this one, we're trying to talk about that finding that purpose and that positivity in moments like this. And we hope that this podcast could serve people even outside of this pandemic moment, because in teaching there are always these precarious moments that are challenging times. So that's kind of the point of today's show. So without further ado, Dene, let's get into it here, with this idea of finding, this positivity. But let's start there. Why is that such a value for a teacher? In this moment or any other difficult moments, why should we try to double down to search for that positivity?
Well, I'm a firm believer in the idea that it's so easy to point out, pick out, see, acknowledge the negative, and sometimes that's so glaringly obvious, the negative things. We think about even societally, a lot of the things that are shared, even in the media, they're portrayed as these big events, and they always perpetuate the negative stuff. And so I think it's intentional and incumbent upon us to look for those positive moments, because it's the positivity that I would even say balances out the negative, and in some cases supersedes the negative and allows us to have that fuel to keep going. I could totally make a list of things that perhaps didn't go as well as I wanted them to go, or did not go well at all. But sometimes when you have all of that around, it only takes one positive thing to totally change the trajectory. You see that one positive, you acknowledge that one positive thing, and it supersedes all the negative, because sometimes that's all you see, right? And sometimes that's all that you are able to focus on, because you see it perpetuated around you.
Yeah, for me, I like how you worded that, and kind of what plays in my mind here is when we think about these forces, right, the positive and the negative, and those forces in terms of attitude, I'm going to use a bit of an analogy here. I think that, like, when we're negative, and we all are, like I admitted in the opening, like I have vented. It's a little bit. I think you know that I love to cook, so this analogy is gonna be a little bit like around that. So I think focusing on the negative is that binge moment where, like, yeah, like eating that ice cream so good, or eating like the entire pizza was super good in the moment, but then like 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, or whatever, you're like, oh, why did I do, like, right, like, why? In the moment it feels so good, you're like, yes, this pizza's delicious, give me another slice, just one more, I'm gonna have just one more. Well, now there's only one more left, let's just have that little one right there. And then all of a sudden in the end you're like, oh, like, this was not a good choice. And then positivity, my analogy there is, it's a little bit like when you do the good thing, right, like when you go to the gym or whatever, you kind of like the rest of it like resonates with you the rest of the day. You're like, yes, right? And I feel like that same thing happens in the classroom or in our schools. When I complain or vent, it does. It feels good in that moment. You're like, oh my gosh, did you know, Dean, that these 10 things are going, like, my world is crazy right now, right? And you're kind of like, yes, now Dean's heard me and he's validating that that's crazy. I feel good. But then I like walk away and like my day is not any better, like, for me. But when I like choose to bring that positivity to my classroom, or positivity to you, if I like, I don't know, if I bought you a cup of coffee and dropped it off on your desk and you're like, hey man, that was awesome, your happiness, my like moment there, that resonates with me the rest of the day. And I swear it like impacts my next class period, my next, thing when I'm with my daughter. So yeah, like let's make some healthy, like happy, habits.
Yeah, I think one of the things that came to mind while we were talking is the little things. How often have we, I won't say ignored the little things, but not really given those little things credence, or as much credence as we should. I think these are the times where little moments matter, and little moments are not so little. You gave the mention of buying that cup of coffee and it's sitting on my desk, and I mean, if that actually occurred, then I mean that would mean the world to me, especially given everything else that's going on. That cup of coffee is like, oh yes, it made my day. It's going to set me off to being motivated, energetic, positive, and ready to seize the moment, seize the day. I don't know. I think those little moments we have to look for. We do. And I wrote a song, and this song came to mind while you were talking.
What is like you? Can you just do everything, Dean? I mean, like.
I'm always working on trying to become a better version of
you
myself.
You are like a modern day Renaissance man.
But like even like we were talking about the sort of precarious nature of situations, and so I asked myself, well, what if? Right? The song is called "What If," and it really focuses on the positive spin on things, and it really focuses on almost like forgetting about yourself to some degree and focusing the attention on others, and while so doing, right, we don't have the same view, we don't have the same perspective as we did before that. What if I loved intentionally? What if I strived to be the best I could be? What if I saw the good in others? What if I put others before me? This world would be a better place, right? And so it takes the emphasis off of even my own precarious experience, at least for a moment, right? And then it puts that attention on someone else, trying to help someone else. And I think us as educators, as teachers, that's really our goal anyway, was to help somebody else. When we said yes to teaching, we said yes to our students, we said yes to learning, we said yes to experiences, authentic learning experiences that will take our students from step 1 to step 2 and beyond. And I think that if we can remember, those kinds of thought processes during these times, despite how hard it is, right? We look for those little moments of positivity, and I think that we find encouragement in those. We find fuel to go back the next day and make it all happen again, and find that next positive moment that's going to give us the fuel to keep going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really an important sort of suggestion here, that these are difficult times, but when we start leaning on the other word, the purpose, like as teachers, we did get into this to help, to support kids through their learning. And oof, I tell you, Dean, it seems like these times, like our purpose has doubled or tripled because these kids really need it. And it's a scary time for you teach 7th, I teach 6th. Like that's a scary moment. Like if you think about the world they're growing up in right now and what they're going to need to solve tomorrow's problems, like they need the education that we want to give them, like the mental education, but also the education of the heart. Like they need that as well. And so as our purpose has, like I said, doubled or tripled, that's what I'm trying to focus on.
Yes.
Because that's what I got into education for. And when I do that, it changes the game for me. This past week, this was my 4th week, and they have, on some level, each week has been hard and challenging and all of those things. But when you focused on that, when you focused on, like, am I sort of mission-centric, and I don't mean my district's mission, I mean my mission, like, yeah, the answer was a resounding yes. And yeah, like this is gonna be a tough tour of duty this year, but like it's meaningful.
The question then, what are we preparing them for? In this world that we now live, that's very different than 5 years ago. What is it that we are preparing them for? Has that focus shifted in this moment to maybe those things that really truly matter? Not to say that there are things that don't matter, but maybe there are things that matter more when it comes to life and learning. And so I think it creates the perfect storm for us to let's consider what we're doing in there with our students and consider what they need. Certainly, social emotional these days, you can never go wrong when you tap into that, because I think it benefits everybody when you can actually relate and show that you feel them, and it makes what they're learning take on new meaning because it's relevant to what we're doing, and then it sort of gives them that opportunity to think about, aside from all these academic areas that we're giving them this content, we're delivering this content. Above all of that, we want you to be able to be social. We want you to be able to understand and interact in a space and an environment that might not necessarily be what we grew up in. And so I think as educators, we have to look for those moments to integrate the kind of thinking or the kind of thought processes or the discussions or the whatever that prepares them to deal with whatever that might be when they graduate from high school. We don't know. I don't know. I wish I would know some days, but I think that changes our approach too. Because we don't know, and there's no way for us to predict what they're going to have to face when it's time for them to come out of high school. Then we have to sort of shift our approach to, okay, let's create this space and opportunity for true student development.
Yeah, on that note, I do think we've had some great gains here, Again, while I wouldn't necessarily want to continue on this way, if I could wave the magic wand, I would, but, I think about some of the skills my students are gaining now. I teach in a hybrid model. And so I have some virtual students, and then I have in-class students, but they're all 6 feet away from each other. So to rethink collaboration, I've done a lot of online things where they're collaboratively doing things together online. And with that, I didn't even think about it at the time, came a ton of time on technology, in which they have now spent enough time daily using this technology that they're starting to explore the technology, right? Before, when you do a project, and this is one of those things that I think is super positive about this, when you do a project, it would be once one project they are using Google Slides or whatever, and then they would kind of just take the template, click where it says put in text here, and it would look nice. But they never got to a threshold where they had a question, Like, they didn't think outside the box. They didn't ask the tool what it could do. They just took the tool for what it was. And now that they're using it daily, they're starting to ask, like, well, it would be really awesome if I could. And then they're starting to figure it out, and they're like, oh, it can do that, and it can add that, and I could do this, and oh, that looks nice when we do it that way. And I mean, we're 4 weeks in, and I can tell you my kids are far better on Google Slides than they've ever been as sixth graders. And that's 4 weeks, 4 weeks of slow curriculum, yet I'm telling you, they're farther than they are at the end of the year under normal circumstances for me, for example. I think, that's a positivity. That's a gain right there. And then, let's lean into that. Like, if that's 4 weeks with that, like, what if I started using another tool and another tool to collaborate? They're going to come out with some pretty hefty tech skills. And I don't just mean, because some people are saying, well, kids are on Zoom, and so, like, they're getting more techie. And it's like, no, I'm not talking about just a chat room and a talk to the camera. These are actual, like, tools and mindsets. Like I said, challenging the tool, inquiring what a tool can do. That's when you start to, like, become, or I should say, that's where you begin the journey of mastering that tool.
Absolutely. And I think, too, along with technology and developing that skill set is the social skill set, too. I think a lot of the tasks that I might have had my students doing in the past have maybe taken on a little bit of a different form these days, based on the tools that we have at our fingertips, and just the sheer opportunity now to engage students in collaborative discussions or Socratic kind of thinking in terms of collaborating students in the classroom with students that are online. You mentioned that was something you experienced as well. My drama class, right? I have a drama class, and the majority of the drama students are virtual, while I think 11 or 12 of them are in the classroom. So really being able to think creatively about how to keep the learning and the moments in learning authentic and relevant and engaging, even though I don't have all the students in front of me in drama of all subjects. Drama is so in the moment. It's kind of like, it would be so awesome if everybody was physically in front of me. There's so much more that I think could happen if they were physically in front of me. However, I've had to think about how to still give them the same quality of instruction, even though I have most of my students online. And so far, it has been an interesting ride, but I will tell you also, it has challenged me to think differently about how I structure things, how I even assign things, how I even pull them together in collaborative situations, intentionally putting students in the classroom with students online, so they're randomly interacting with everybody. And so I think about the social opportunity too. That we learn by social. We're social people, right? Humans are social, and so I think being able to have this opportunity to intentionally allow them to talk and share and discuss and disagree and agree. I think about our quote of the day that I know that you institute in your classroom too. That's an opportunity for perspective, opportunity for I like what you said, but I would add this, or that kind of thing. It's learning too, and it's learning, I think, in a real way that pulls in pieces of information that are appropriate for them, but it also gives them the opportunity to deepen their understanding, vocabulary, just a number of things that I think have been going well for me and the students in the classroom also, that may not necessarily be present in every classroom, but given the situation that we're in, these are things that we can motivate students to take part in, that I think are life related. So it's not just about grade 7. It's about, okay, this is a skill like technology, right? This is a skill that we can develop in life, and it has definitely been positive in that regard for the students in my classroom.
Yeah, so I think that this idea of educating the child on SEL skills and that joy within them is obviously super huge. And I was excited this past week, another win. I have a vlog that I'm going to make on this, so more information later. But this activity I did, which was individual, but they were kind of working as a team, sort of. By team, I mean like whole period. But yet they all had to do tasks separate, and then they were, I don't know. You're going to have to watch the vlog. But what I want to say is the amount of support because they were working together, like the amount of like cheers, like we got this, guys, we can do this. It felt so good and it's so right. And to give students that space where they were working together in a place and space in which they're not, because we have some virtual kids that are in the room, we have everybody in the room 6 feet away. So, but it almost felt like there was this group huddle. You know, there wasn't, but it totally did feel like there was this group huddle. And so building in moments where like the class can work together, the class can overcome something. I know this is getting a little bit into my gamification stuff, but like I think that there's a huge value in laying something out in which people can come together, because like you said, we are social humans, we're social beings. There's a concept in gamification about the power of the tribe, like when you can connect something to a group and you can be a part of that group and the group can achieve something, and then there's validation within the group that like we all did this, and it's kind of high fives all around. There's true power in that, and like it shifts our thinking, it shifts our attitudes. And kids, I often ask like survey sort of feedback, and kids like again overwhelmingly kind of said like, Ms. Matera, this brought us back. I mean, this made it feel pre-COVID, right? And that the whole genesis of that lesson came with this idea of focusing on positivity, like where, like positivity and purpose. Like what my purpose here is to help kids and level up, like they're learning, and I want to do it in a joyful way. So I kind of use some game mechanics, and that's because that's the way I think. I apply these game mechanics. I'd never done this lesson before. There's a brand new sort of style and way, but it really worked. And like part of me is like, heck yeah, I'm going to use that style post-COVID too. I mean, that is a win. But to get to that win, I had to sort of change the focus on my lens a little bit, right? And when I focused on that purpose and that positivity, oof, my mission got achieved. It was crystal clear.
Yeah, how awesome is that students are actually able to tell you we're back, or that this thing actually helped, or this thing was actually redirected. And so I think that's even more powerful, is that they realize it. I could probably stay on that a little bit, but I'm not going to for the sake of moving forward with our conversation. But you said the power of a tribe, I might say the power of community. And same thing. One of the things that I believe brings people together is music. And of course, one of my hashtags on well, I like to use the hashtag on Twitter a lot, hashtag the teacher who sings. And so one of the things I've found myself doing much more than I've ever done before is utilizing music or rhythm or beats during instruction, during those kinds of interactions online. And as a likely, maybe not a likely result, but as a happy result, I've had more students coming out of their comfort zones when it comes to sharing, when it comes to taking steps to present things in front of people that they may not have normally done, because they feel like they have that kind of freedom too, I guess, as a result of that door being open for them. And I think it's fun to be able to take a concept in ELA and put it to music, or put it to a rhythm, and use that as a way to teach kids. But it also inspires them to the degree that though we're teaching ELA, there's so many things involved, but at the same time, there's so many ways to approach this. And so my first period class is my musical class, and they've been really, really, really musical lately. So I'm hoping that that's going to then lead to, let's create a rap about this, or
Sure.
something like that, connected to content. or maybe it's a word of the day rap, word of the day song, or something like that. That again is another way for them to learn, and then a positive inside of the precarious
Well,
situation.
it's something different, you've sort of changed the game of school a little bit there, and it's clearly something that you're passionate about too, which I think, again, I always would say, like, show off your passion a little bit in schools, because it gives students that have that same passion a chance to connect with you, and it gives other kids the permission to kind of nerd out about their passions, right? So even if, like, I talk to my kids that I love cooking and that I love board games, those two things, those stories come out all the time. And like I said, some kids share with me that, like, oh man, I'm trying to learn to cook, or I would like this YouTuber and you should check him out, Mr. Matera. And then other kids start to open up about theirs, like, oh man, I love Minecraft. And then, like, I ask them probing questions about Minecraft, like, but this idea that we have to always do their thing, I don't know if that's, like, it's not wrong. Like, I could start playing Minecraft and that would be a great way to connect. But I wouldn't necessarily say that's automatically right that we need to do their thing. I think it's the fact that we have to express ourselves so that others understand it is okay to express themselves.
And how much more do all the things that are related to us connect to our purpose?
Ooh,
Right.
ooh.
I think that all those parts of us, those components of us, are absolutely imperative and vital to this whole experience of purpose. Yes, we said we're going to walk this teaching journey, walk this teaching road, but everything about us comes with us on that teaching journey. Everything about us comes with us. And so if we can understand how all of it works together to inform purpose, then we understand that all of it has purpose. And then when we can express that, like you said, to our students and show them that I'm a whole person, I have these interests, and sort of create that space for that, everybody becomes better.
I love it, Dean. That was some powerful words. But we got reflection time here coming up. This is a little thing we do here on the old Well Played, where at the end I ask us both to sort of spin a quote and how it sort of fits with today's chat. I'll admit I totally forgot to ask Dean if he wanted to know the quote ahead of time or not, so he didn't get a choice. But I kind of want to know, would you have wanted to know, or would you have just rolled with, give it to me on the spot?
Well, I mean, there's certainly benefits to knowing, but there's also benefits to being on the spot. So I say let's go for it either way.
Boom. All right. So this comes from Carlos Santana. I think this quote really works today. If you carry joy in your heart, you can heal any moment.
Wow. And that word was heal, right? Heal.
Yep.
Wow. And so, whew, so there
Whew,
definitely,
right? Like, whew, that's a good one.
there definitely have been times where I just to be completely transparent, that I have felt like I wasn't doing this like I needed to be doing it. And that's completely transparent because I am partly perfectionist and I want to do everything well. So I've had those moments where I felt like I wasn't there. I didn't make the mark. I've had those moments where I felt like, maybe if I took this one more step, I might have broke down, and had the waterworks going. But what I know is that joy is something that is not. It's not something that only comes for a day. Joy is something that you find and it's a sustaining thing. So when you tap into joy and you continue to tap into that joy, it's not something that just comes and goes. And so if I can find or tap into that source of joy and continue to tap into that source of joy despite what I feel, despite where I hurt, despite the pain that I experience, the joy has the power to overcome all of that. And yes, I might walk with a limp for a day, but joy is going to be with me for the long term. So yes, I need to have those kinds of moments to balance myself. I think pain, heartache, those kinds of things will happen in life, but joy overcomes all of that because I can always remember purpose at the end of the day. And it is through my purpose that I pebble of joy.
I really like your spin, and I'm going to kind of build off that same idea, right? That if, like, joy is a mindset. Joy is something that you are kind of in control of. Like, you can kind of, like the story I told you guys, like the success that I'm having in the class, that is by looking at it a certain way. That is by challenging myself a certain way. But that's in our control. I can't control the pain. I can't control the pain of that moment in terms of what's being asked of me. The challenges, as you say, are going to come and go in our lives, but we're in control of that joy. So building up a joyful spirit is something that I hope everyone is working on and working towards. And it can be hard, but if we can kind of make deposits in us and kind of build up that bank of joy, it can kind of truly weather any storm and ultimately kind of overflow and help others build their bank of joy. And that's the other thing that I got to remember is when we carry that joy in our heart and we share it with others, it's like a bucket filling thing. Like now Dean's heart's a little filled, then Dean goes, talks to whatever, his neighbor, and now his neighbor's his bucket's full. And so, yeah, like focusing on that is so worth it, so valuable.
Yeah, and this light that I have, this little light of mine, let it shine. Yes, that song was like playing in my head while you were talking, because we want to all be able to have positivity in our purpose in Precarious.
It's too true. Well, Dean, thank you so much for joining us today on Well Played.
Thank you.
Everyone else, thank you guys for tuning in this week and every other week. I really appreciate it. It comes out every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. And as always, if you could check out MrMatera.com to find all sorts of other ways to connect with me. Check out the YouTube channel if you want to leave any feedback on this particular episode. This is literally the middle episode of Season 4. We're on episode 26. So thank you, Dean, again for being here. Thank you, everyone else, for being here every week. Take care and enjoy.